Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of It Might Be You. I have a guest with me today. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and kind of share with the listeners what you do.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Misha Vayner. I am a holistic health and well-being coach, and I support overwhelmed individuals in feeling their best in mind, body, and soul without the stress, with ease and joy. Um, shall I go on, or is that good?
No, that's good.
Okay.
That's good.
I could talk all day about it,
So
so I need to be cut off sometimes.
I understand. So um, we've kind of discussed your story, and it's it's a lot.
A
And
lot.
so I just would love for you to share um, your journey from that moment, your It Might Be Me moment, to how you transformed your life and became the woman that you are today, and helping other women with their well being and just, you know, everything. So um, let's hear about your It Might Be Me moment.
Yes. Okay. So about 10 years ago, I launched my namesake retail concept store in New York City, and it was something I dreamed about since I was a child. It was a huge, huge undertaking. It was like a seeing my dream come true in all its technicolor glory. My name in lights in New York City, in the Wall Street Journal, all of it was like so surreal and just the best feeling ever. It was like my first child. I put everything into it, and I had two business partners that had approached me to go into business with me. These are two people that I trusted implicitly, that I felt really, really close to, that I considered dear, dear friends. And the long story short of that piece of it is that they did something shady and unbeknownst to me, and it resulted in a lawsuit, a $5 million lawsuit on my business and personally. And during that time, I could not, um, I had a temporary restraining order on the business until the lawsuit was settled, which, as someone who always struggled with um, being able to express themselves and find their voice, and really I feel as though my voice was very stifled for a long time, and I was just coming into myself. And now I had this restraining order, which meant that I couldn't tell my landlord, I couldn't tell my customers, I couldn't tell anyone that this was happening. But I also had a $16,000 a month rent to pay. I had commitment to these people. And so I felt like and I'm a very transparent, honest person. So it really made me feel like I was at odds within myself in a really deep way of, not being transparent, not being honest, but I really didn't have a choice. I was dealing with major betrayal from two people that I trusted implicitly. I This whole experience, all on top of the inner struggle I was dealing with that, also crippled my business. So I was like losing. I was going through major grief of, dealing with the fact that I was losing something I worked my entire life towards, and then dealing with so much toxicity with my partners and these people, and being completely, you know, confused and feeling like these were problems I couldn't Google. Like, why is this happening to me, and how can I get out of this? And all of that
Right.
trauma resulted in, so as oh, and then also my grandmother died, and there was a bunch of other personal things that were happening that were extremely stressful. And when I finally had to close my business, I also got my husband proposed to me right after that, and or my boyfriend at the time, and I was just like, I cannot do this. I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know what just happened. I had lost all sense of, like, myself, what my purpose was, what was next for me. Um, my sister had just gone through a divorce, so she was going through some crazy stuff. So I was feeling like a lack of being able to trust people. I couldn't trust myself. I was petrified from like legal agreements after what I'd been through. I was majorly in the red. I mean, there were some days I would just eat like a granola bar or like a tuna out of a can. Like it was bad. I had my self-worth and my ego was like in the toilet. And so I'm like, this is not a place that I can commit to a marriage. Not only did I
Yeah.
know how I felt, so then I found out I'm pregnant. And
Oh my goodness.
and I was like, oh, and I had a breakdown and I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to take care of this baby, much less myself.
Baby.
And then something happened to me. I had this moment where actually I saw my father, and he was like, when I told my parents, and I, Indian parents, kind of traditional, and I was petrified to tell them after like everything they had just heard from me. And they were like over the moon. And something about that moment of hearing my parents so excited for this actually blessing that I wasn't able to see because I was just constantly in this negative toxic space. And I was like, oh my God, this is a blessing. Like this is and I saw it as divine intervention. And like I said, my grandmother died, and I felt like she was coming to me to bring me to a positive place, to bring me to my next, to have me sort of start to think outside of all of my troubles and think of something bigger and what's really important. So as I started down that journey of processing the fact that I was going to be a mother, also now having a shotgun wedding, like all of this, it was stressful. It was really stressful. I still was grieving
Yeah.
the loss. I still was trying to find myself, even more so now that I'm like now being thrust into a whole new, life. And I really still hadn't lost my passion for, entrepreneurship, but I also found that I always had this deep passion for supporting women and supporting other people. It's been a thread that's run throughout my whole life. And in my former business that I had, everything gave back to a good cause. Like there was a social consciousness effort with all of the things. And that was really important to me. And as I segued into motherhood, I was really trying to figure out like how to do something that was really meaningful to me. And I thought I wanted to be a midwife. I thought I wanted to be a doula. I'd always been really passionate about health and well-being. But I was just still trying to find myself. And now that I was having a child, I was like, you don't have time to keep finding yourself. Like you're in the red. You need to go back to work. So I went back to work in corporate fashion, but it wasn't it because my background was in luxury fashion, and that's where I spent my career. But it wasn't where my heart was anymore. And so while I was on that path, after I had gone through all of that, and right after I had the baby and dealt with all the stress, my health broke down. Literally, my brain shut down. I couldn't walk. I had nail fungus. I had rectal bleeding. I had chronic anxiety, depression. I couldn't sleep. Literally, I couldn't type. I couldn't remember anything. My skin was like disgusting. My hair was falling out. Like literally I had major digestive problems. After everything I ate, I felt really nauseous. I get really bloated. I had no energy. And really, I had about 65 different quote unquote unexplainable ailments. I was on crutches, even though I had gone to had x-rays, CAT scans, bone scans, all the things, and everything kept coming back inconclusive. So now I'm working in corporate fashion at Saks Fifth Avenue. I have a newborn. I'm crutching around. I'm in extreme pain. I literally feel like I can't function. And it felt like every couple of weeks, something else would shut down. So this went on for about a year and a half of me looking for the answer, struggling, not only struggling to find the answer, but struggling with feeling good in my skin, struggling to understand like who I'd become, feeling like disconnected from myself, and really wondering who I was now at this point. Like I was like, what has happened to me? I felt like I was spun around a million times. So At one point, I'll never forget, after a year and a half of searching and searching and searching, I was driving.
Hmm.
I couldn't put my foot on the brake because it hurt too badly. And I pulled over somehow and I called my husband and I just like broke down and I was like, we need a doctor who can get to the bottom of whatever this is. Literally nothing in my body works. Like nothing works. That's what it felt like. And I was divinely led to my functional doctor, Dr. Jeffrey Morrison, who is in New York City. And in my experience with him, I learned that while I had chronic, I had inflammation, I had I had major depletion of all my nutrients and minerals from all of the stress. I had I had something called high reverse T3. I became insulin resistant. I had a whole bunch of issues, but the root of all of it was stress. And so within 6 weeks of me working with him, in literally he told me, like, you cannot work out, it's adding stress to your body, you can only he prescribed meditation, he prescribed relaxing yin yoga, and we worked on a protocol with herbs and through nutrition to help to replenish.
Balance you back out.
And in those
Yeah.
6 weeks, my brain turned on. I dropped like 20 pounds. My eyes were like bright as like, so bright and fresh. My skin was amazing. My hair was amazing. I was able to walk. Everything felt good. My brain was sharp. And on that 6 week visit, so I was like, I would say almost, what we thought was like almost healed. And then we found out I was pregnant again. So fast forward over the course of 3 years, I had after I got pregnant with my second child, I was in that moment, I was fascinated because I was like, I don't even understand how this transformation happened, because as someone who's always been extremely passionate about health and well-being, and I was just like, how did I not know these things, and how can I continue to support myself and my family so that I can continue to get better and this doesn't happen again. So while I was
Right.
pregnant, I enrolled in the Institute of Integrative Nutrition to learn. At that time, I didn't even think I wanted to be a health coach, but I knew that I wanted to learn and take it from there. And so I was in school on my healing journey, and I ended up having 3 children in 3.5 years while I was working, while I was in school. And throughout that journey, I kept getting diagnosed with like one stress related issue after another. They kept saying, you have this. And I was like, but I don't understand. I'm doing the yoga, I'm doing the meditation, I'm eating the kale. Why? And they'd be like, they're like, literally 1% of the population have this. And I'm like, how did you get this? And they're like, from stress. And I'd be like, but I'm not stressed. But then they'd show me the test and it was indicating like you are stressed. And I'm like, okay, I guess the tests don't lie. And this was a huge aha moment. It was like the boulder finally hit my head. And it was like, you can do all the things in the world, but if you're actually not stressed from within, like literally nothing matters. And this process was like a real big awakening because it had me peel back the layers more. And what I learned was that the stress I was experiencing was from my disconnect from my sense of self. All of the beating up, all of the lack of self-worth, all of the like lack of self-compassion, all of the judgment on myself, the picking apart, the doom and gloom, like all of those toxic emotions, and how I was beating myself up for my failure, beating myself for my body. All of this was causing so much
Okay.
turmoil that I was not able to heal or lose weight or feel good. Then I went through this journey of like self discovery, self love, and stress reduction, and like incorporating all the modalities from breath work to learning about Buddhism and different mindset shifts to learning about astrology and human design, and really going deep into how can I really understand myself, love myself, and live in alignment with my authentic truth. And from that journey of radical self discovery and self acceptance and building confidence came massive healing and this insane passion to want to help other women that are consistently looking externally for validation, for answers, who are getting exhausted and burnt out from decision fatigue, from looking elsewhere, to learning that at the end of the day, we are the ones who hold the keys and have to like unlocking our greatest potential and feeling our best and living our best lives. It's through, there's over 100 different dietary theories, and they're all right and they're all wrong. And you can go around playing whack-a-mole all day looking for answers. But really, when we connect with our inner guide and we learn how to understand our own unique systems, how to understand the cues, what form of nourishment that cue is actually asking for, and then what the most aligned form of nourishment is for our unique system. And once we understand it, we it's like literally the floodgates open. It's like off to the races. You are like sparkling and shining. It's like that diamond that all of a sudden glimmers and glows. And one analogy I like to, sort of share with people to help them really understand is like, it's as if a lot of us are playing, or I was playing this game of like, we're constantly, it's like if our well-being and our life is a game, and we're constantly trying to like, we're not reading the instructions, we're not learning how it's played, but we're constantly just randomly trying things. You might win, you might get some right, you might get a few points, but it'll be stressful and you'll feel like unsure the whole time, and it won't be an enjoyable process, and the success rate will be low. But if you
Right.
understand how to play the game, if you learn your own unique operating system and you how you work, then playing the game becomes ease filled. It becomes, you have confidence doing it. You crush it. You win so with so much like more successfully. And so that's what I want to help people understand is through connection with self, and that is where we reduce the stress. All of a sudden, oh my God, our metabolism is in check. Therefore, we're waking up with energy. We're going to sleep naturally when the sun goes down, or we can hear that our body's actually asking us for natural whole foods. Because when it's in a stressed state, we don't know what we want, because we're either pounding coffee and those are giving us different cues, or we're wanting cake, or we're wanting this. But that's not what our most aligned version of us want. It's the toxic version of us. So I try to get people back to a really aligned state, so that they can hear their body's cues, understand them, understand themselves, and how they can live in alignment and be in ease, which that's how I operate now. To answer your question, where I am now is, at the end of the day, like life is always going to be throwing us off. We're going to constantly have new challenges and new opportunities to grow, rise, awaken, heal more. But the
Yeah.
truth is right now, I feel so in flow, so aligned. And even when I have my moments where I'm tested by, the universe, I have the tools to bring myself back in check. I have the self-compassion to guide myself home with, with love. I have the awareness to catch it earlier. And so I'm able to experience better well-being, more fulfillment, and more joy in my life now. So
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, there's just so much to unpack.
mm,
And I guess I want to go back to, let's just talk about that friendship. I know that had to, I don't know, that friendships to me are so important, and to be able to trust someone that you call a friend is huge. It's like it's blowing my mind that they put you in that position. And I can completely understand the stress, that would come along with. Like I couldn't imagine being under that much scrutiny, that much stress. And so it's not surprising that it manifested itself in your body the way that it did. And then on top of that, getting pregnant, that's a whole nother level of stress in your body going through changes. So I almost feel like you were just hit with a 1-2 punch,
Mm.
Yeah, just back to back. You didn't even have a chance to process everything that happened before you got pregnant. And then with that, moving into motherhood, being a first time mom, yeah, it's just a lot. So like my mind is still kind of reeling just from trying to process and trying to empathize with where you were at that point. And I can understand that, when you have a dream and you work towards that dream and you actually bring that dream into fruition, and then for it to get snatched the way that it did, I can completely understand the fact that you didn't have a sense of self anymore because your identity or who you thought you were was rudely, snatched from under you. Um, so I guess the question that I have now is now when you develop friendships with people, um, do you kind of have like a filtering or do you struggle with trust? Do you have that
Yeah.
trust issue? Yeah.
So a couple of things. So yeah, I was radically broken at that time. And what a few things, key points to, you know, answer your question. So I feel so the trust piece, the biggest issue that I've had for that I feel like got me in that place in the beginning was because I didn't have self-trust. And because I didn't
Yes.
have strong confidence and strong self-trust, people knew they could take advantage of me. And that was a big part of a lot of the dynamic of what went, even though these were, to your point, like they were my closest friends and it crushed me. But I realized in hindsight that, you know, unintentionally, I was giving out I was allowing people to, it was giving them the opportunity to take advantage of me because they knew, because I didn't have strong sense of self and I didn't have strong boundaries. And so I was
Okay.
constantly giving, giving, giving. And when when there's somebody who will just let you walk all over them, like that's what I was doing in a way. And so I learned in my journey that, when you have a strong sense of self and when you are confident, a and in a positive high vibe, you don't even attract people like that. And if you do, like you're just repelling them because they're not even going to come in your space that way. Like they know you're not, you know what I mean? Or you have a strong enough sense of self where you can like own you stand up for yourself. You know
Your
what I mean?
truth. Yeah.
So when I tried, it was like too little, too late. I learned the hard way. And so it was honestly, I'm so grateful for the experience, even though it took so much healing, because it was I believe that I know that self trust is the most important thing you need to have. And it was an expensive and really hard lesson the way I learned it, but now it's unshakable. I have like, so to answer your question, now it's like I have really strong boundaries, which and I'm very listen, we all have, it's I think it's a journey and a constant refinement process. And it's funny because I actually just posted about this on my Instagram yesterday that I did a friendship inventory um by default and had been like cleaning out ones that weren't serving me and bringing in new ones. But it's a constant process because as we grow and evolve, the next person that you're friends with is also going through their own healing journey. And it's inevitable at some point for there potentially to not, for you to be at a different rate than that person and it not to align. And, you know, I am a very compassionate, loving, giving person. And because I know that like when I'm in a friendship, it's like I'm fully me, I'm completely open. I'm not a guarded person. And so it only feels safe for me to be in friendships where I feel fully confident that I can be myself and not be taken advantage of, not something being thrown in my face, not feeling being judged. And so when I sense that there is, when I'm being um, not appreciated, or when I sense something, I am very clear about what I stand for and what I'm willing to, I always lead with love and compassion, but at the end of the day, boundaries are love, and you have to love yourself first. So, if I'm not in a friendship, it doesn't mean that that person is toxic, or I don't like that person, or that I don't wish that person well and fully and completely. But that doesn't mean that that person needs to be in my life right now if it's causing me toxicity and it's not feeling supportive to me. So I really continuously, I had a friendship for 20 years that right now we're in a season where it doesn't feel aligned. I think that she is going through some things and it seems to be impacting me. And I've tried to, you know, be really, I feel like I've been extremely forgiving and understanding, but it's gotten to a point where I realized, you know what, maybe this just needs to be on the back burner for right now. I think there's seasons that you're in and then seasons that you may not be, or maybe it just, you take a little bit of space. But I also, not only that, but I also am extremely, um, like, so I don't know how familiar your audience or you are with human design, but human design is like a fusion of astrology, the Kabbalahs, the chakras, and another Chinese system. And it's, if astrology explains who you are, human design explains it even further. And I'm something that's
Okay.
called a projector. And what that means is we're a non-energy type, and we really are highly empathic, and when we're around people we absorb their energy really deeply. And so um, one, that means that I need to be extremely careful about the people I surround myself with, but also because I burn out when I'm with people a lot. I have three small children, and I work and we don't have help, so I have much less time for people, for friendships right now, so I'm just highly selective with where I put my energy and my time. And there's a lot of people I like that I just don't have the time to hang out with because I don't hang out with that many people that often anymore. So I feel like it's a little bit of boundaries and just how, when I was younger, I had a million friends, and now I'm more quality versus quantity, and really just honoring both my boundaries and my energy.
Yes, and I completely agree with that. I am someone who um, I get recharged by being alone,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like when I'm around a lot of different energies, like just this week, being in a class full of people who are great, we're all on the same journey, but it's really draining for me at the end of the day. And, I just need that quiet time so I can get back in alignment with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just a process. I've realized and recognized that about myself now. Before I didn't. And so I couldn't figure out, like you said, just I was stressed to the max, and I never realized that, Leah, you need to be alone to recharge. And then to your point about the nutrition, I never would have even thought about that. Um, that, just sitting here listening to your story, I'm like, okay, that explains a lot. Um, I'm clearly with the nutrition, I'm not in alignment. I try to get in alignment, but I just don't have that knowledge to do that. Um, and so I feel like, that leaves me wanting to learn more about what you do for sure. Um, so when someone comes to you presenting um, symptoms of stress, and I know that can look different in different people, what's your process to, kind of figure out what or how to help them? I guess that's the best
Yeah.
way.
So I first start with a very thorough intake form, which, excuse me, it's Friday, a very thorough intake form that gets clarity on, so many aspects, from what they are eating, how much they're sleeping, what their sleep looks like, what their stressors look like, how many hours they're working, if they have kids, what their medical history is, how in alignment they are with their purpose, how happy they are. Like, it's a very thorough intake form. From that place,
Okay.
and in that, sorry, and in that, it's one of many intake forms, but that's the first one I start with before we work together. And in that space, when they're answering it, they only know what they know, right? So they obviously, they're answering with the awareness that they're in that moment. But when I'm reading it, I see that I'm able to see immediately where there are where the areas that we need to really like go in and get clarity on, and also get clarity of which of those areas are the most out of alignment that we need to bring them back in. So what we do is, on the first session, we start to do two things at the same time. One is addressing some of the areas that are completely out of alignment, and to help, and giving them suggestions that are working with them to understand, based on their own unique body, what behavior, lifestyle, mindset, um, changes need to be integrated that works with their unique body and lifestyle to help bring those areas back into alignment. While we're doing that, we're also going deeper into some of the bigger issues. So, for example, if someone is telling me they're stressed, and or their stress levels at a certain point, and but they don't really know why, in the work it's kind of a blend of health and life coaching, and I start to go deeper with them to get to the root of like what is triggering the stress. And oftentimes it's related to, it's 9 times out of 10 related to their connection with self, but it's, could be related to traumas from their childhood. It could be related to an incident that happened. It could be related to their aspects of their insecurities. They
Hmm.
all sorts of different things. And so we kind of go deep. There's like a kind of a 2-track process. Of one is working on the like more tangible aspects, like, okay, we need to institute like a bedtime routine, and like no screens, and a ritual for you, and blah, 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 to help you get your sleep back on track, and add in these supplements, and remove these foods, and add in these foods. But those are tactical. But then at the same time, we're really doing some deep rooted healing with self to help unpack what it is that is getting in the way from them standing in their truth, from them being standing in their worth, standing in their power, and stepping into their sparkle and their glow. So, like, when we really understand what it is that's what lies were told to us in our childhood, what that teacher said to us at that one time that made us think that we're not worthy, when we were rejected, when we were whatever happened, when we get back to those places and do the healing and really continue to unpack, it helps to do the excavation. And also, the other piece of it is really understanding more about yourself. So when you understand, like for example, with human design, when I learned that I have this unique design that requires me in between people, because I'm absorbing their energy, to take space, to your point, to be with self, to recharge, to release that energy, to understand that, like, when I'm with other people, I'm absorbing their energy. So if somebody calls me up and says, like, you want to come to this party, I mean, this is not happening now, but say 10 years ago, you want to come to this party, like blah blah blah, it's so blah, blah, and I'm on the phone, and I'm like, yeah, I want to go. And then I get there and I'm in their energy, but I'm like, wait. Then the next day I'm so tired, I'm like, I didn't really want to go, I was just feeling their vibes. And I realized that when
Yeah.
people ask me things, I have to be in my own energy. But I'll get back to you, and I sit with myself and get clarity from myself when I'm not absorbing their energy. But the point is from understanding how my unique design is, and what that does, and what I need to implement to support me, I'm able to then get myself back into alignment and live with more confidence and ease, because I know that, like, you know, I don't feel comfortable in this situation because of my design. This is the situation that I do. I need to implement this energetic boundary when I'm in this situation. If I'm going to help me feel good, that therefore will reduce the stress. That therefore helps me feel better about myself. And all of these aspects of self-mastery and self-discovery increase your confidence and your worthiness, because you have a better handle on you. So you're able to show up with more ease and grace and confidence and self-compassion, because you're like, oh, I get why I'm being like that. This is not for me. This is not how I'm supposed to roll. So I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm just going to take myself out of it. Like, I know that that's not for me. It's not because there's something wrong with me. It's because that's just not my design. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
like, and the same with like astrology and other things, like just helping you get clear on, we're all so different. And I think like marketing and society has us, constantly feel like we're supposed to be like the person here that's selling to us, like everyone else, and listening to everyone else, and that they, to look for these answers outside of ourselves and put ourselves in these boxes and these categories, but we're all so different. And when you surrender and release the need to constantly be like the next person or put yourself in a box, and just honor who you are in your own authentic truth and alignment, then it's like you'll feel so amazing. So that's kind of the process. I went off on a tangent, but basically the process is really helping them to the 2-track process of looking at what's out of alignment, bringing it back in, and helping them through self-discovery, and self-healing and self-mastery.
Yeah, so it sounds like you like really help them to tap into their own internal resources, and in turn that helps them to start that healing journey, which is so important. And so many people, like for me, with I'm realizing that I've had several "it might be me" moments, and I think it's okay to do that. As you, like you said earlier, your life, as long as you're breathing, as long as you have life in your body, you're on a journey, and you never know what life may throw at you. And so it's okay to have moments when you check in or have to check in with yourself and realize, oh, like me finding out I'm more introverted in that I recharge by being alone. That was my aha moment. Well, that's why I didn't have energy to do things, or because I was like you, um, wanted to be out in the mix. I didn't want to miss anything. And then when I was in those places, I would be bored, or just I want to go home and go to bed. And just not, yeah, just not realizing it, not having that internal, I guess, relationship with yourself. A lot of people are missing that in this day and age, and we don't realize it because, like you said, we have media, marketing, all these things, and all the things being pushed at us constantly. You never get a real minute to check in, unless you start down some type of path of healing, or you have something detrimental happen, and it, and your body revolts against you. Because I had that, not as severe as you, but with I know I was out of alignment because of lady part issues, and so it was a lot. I was like infertility and all those things that I'm still working through. And I know a lot of it has to do with just not being in alignment with self. And so with that, like when you go through your process and you get them on the track that they need to get on, do you find that anyone that you work with has resistance towards doing that inner work?
It's funny. For the most part, no, because I think they know that, like, that's part of it. That said, I'm working with someone right now who is very she wants to, and she's definitely been, you know, doing it. I only just started with her this week actually, so it was the first session. But she expressed to me that she feels very triggered by the questions. And in her case, it's because she, for so long growing up, was, um, grew up in a household where she was told how to feel and what to do and how to live, and, a very traditional type of family where, she had to follow a certain person's path and take a certain type of career. And now, after being in motherhood and coming out of, like, needing to be under her parents' like spell, and just kind of realizing that, like, she doesn't really even know who she is and what she wants from herself. And so
Mm-hmm.
questions feel very triggering for her, because she's like, I don't know these answers, and it's making me really upset and frustrated, and making me not want to do the work, because it's just so far from where I am. So we're working to, like, kind of go less broad, and really just go deeper into, into different taking a different route with it. But up until her, I haven't had that. But I but at the same time, with each person, it is highly um unique in the approach that I take. There's not one that is the same, because everyone is just so different and has different triggers. Like, I have another one who's highly sensitive as well, and I take a different, if it's too, yes, it is going to be a deep process. But, if it's too traumatic, my entire approach is, if it doesn't feel good, we shouldn't be doing it. So I don't want it to feel traumatic. I want it to feel good while we're on the journey. So I try to do it in a way that, um, we're able to do the healing while also feeling really good about it.
Okay. And that makes sense because it can be, uh, I hate to use the word traumatic, like you said. I don't like that word. I feel like when you're on this journey, you are going to go deep, um, and confront things that you may have struggled with or that maybe you just didn't realize about yourself. And so it can be difficult to sit with that. And I know that because I have had to do the mirror work, and I've done the ugly crying, and I've done it all.
Mm.
So I know, and I'm still doing things. You know, things come up for me still, um, as I shift and I change and I evolve, that I have to address and go deep with. So, what piece of advice, since you've went through your journey, would you give someone who might just be starting off? Like, what
Mhm.
to kind of help them along and make that journey a little bit less bumpy?
Yeah, I am so I cannot stress enough the practice of morning pages, and I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you what it is. Morning
Okay.
pages is a practice where it's ideally first thing in the morning, because it's better to you can tap into your subconscious when it's in its like in that in you can more easily tap into your subconscious when you do it right when you wake up. That said, at any time is fine. Do not restrict yourself to that. But the process is free writing, even if you, without judgment, for like 5 to 7 minutes, say. You can go longer, but at minimum. And the reason it's so powerful is because is for many reasons. Number one, so you're going to write without judging. You're just, even if you're like, I don't have anything to say, you're going to let your pen say, I don't have anything, that you to keep your pen moving. What happens is, first of all, when you're in this process, it quiets your ego mind. So you are, if in real life you would say to someone, I'm such an idiot, when you're writing, your ego mind's like, no, you're not. Like, so through that process, you're able to see things more objectively and build more self-confidence. The second thing is, you're able to access your inner wisdom, your inner truth, your intuition through this process in a way that's like, when you're talking to a friend and you have a problem and you're talking and talking and asking for advice, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just figured it out. It's because you have the space to process it. And typically in this like modern society, if you're a busy mom, if you're whatever lifestyle you have, um, typically right now we don't have the space, we don't take the space to drop in and connect to our hearts, to our intuition. And we have this space, and all of a sudden through the writing process our subconscious is kicked in, and we're able to tap into those deeper parts of ourselves. So we gain access to information about our deepest truths, our desires, these aha moments that help us get clarity on our lives. And what, sorry, wait, something happened?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. The door just opened.
You get clarity on your life, you get clarity on things that you've been struggling with, and it removes all these blockages. You're also building confidence, you're doing that. Then at the same time, it's this process also helps increase motivation. Like it gives you more energy, it gives you more direction, because you're able to, like, once you kind of get fired up in the process, because you're just like getting all these ideas and downloads and insights that you didn't know were living within you. So you free up the space, which gives you energy and motivation, and you get so much clarity. So it's a really amazing process, because if you're struggling with, if you're feeling lost in your skin, if you don't know what step to take, if you're feeling stressed, because it's major for stress reduction, um, it's also major for building confidence. It's major for connection to self. All of it, this is the key. And the way I like to describe, so you can understand better, is it's like if you're talking to a toddler and you meet a toddler for the first time and they're really meek and they're not talking, and you're trying to get them to, you're trying to talk to them and they're just like not really talking. And then you keep showing the toddler love and playing games with them and hanging out with them and giving them cookies. And then all of a sudden the toddler's like talking more to you and showing you all these things and won't shut up. And they're like, oh, who knew? So that's the same with our intuition. The more we continue to engage with it and connect with it, the voice gets louder, your self-worth gets more, your understanding of yourself gets more, your connection gets deeper. And so you continue to build up this confidence, this self-trust, you release the stress, you build clearer perspective, and that is paramount for your health and well-being. And it's a simple practice. It just takes a journal and a pen.
See, and I've never heard of, you call it morning pages?
Yes. So it's
I've always done oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, there's a book, it was invented by this woman, Julia Cameron, and she wrote the book called The Artist's Way. And I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to explore this deeper. We learned this in nutrition and health coaching school, and it completely transformed me. It's like my drug, my daily drug. I can't live without it.
Yeah, and it sounds like I do a daily journal, gratitude journal and list, but never thought to just do like a free write, just write whatever comes. Because I usually have to tap into, okay, what am I grateful? I mean, I can come up with plenty of things to be grateful for, but this just sounds like another way to really get in touch, and do that check-in with yourself. So I'm going to have to try it and see how that works. So
yes, please do. Please let me know how it goes.
I will. So this conversation has been quite enlightening. And it's gave me like a lot to think about, especially when it comes to, the nutrition part, that we are not, we're not taught, like you said, you're marketed all these things and it's not individualized, and everybody runs on different things. And so just that part alone was really valuable for me, and I hope it is for my listeners as well, that if you're trying to figure out why you're not in alignment, it could be because of the things that you're putting in your body, and the things that you may not be addressing inside. And then once those two things come together, you're just a more harmonious person and being. So I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story, which was a lot, and just your insights. They were really eye-opening and enlightening for me. And so with that,
Mhm.
for anybody that wants to get in touch with you or follow you or whatever, you feel free to share how they can find you on social.
Yeah. So I'm at Misha Vayner. That's Misha, V as in Victor, Ayner, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Actually, on LinkedIn, I'm not, but on all the places. My website is mishavayner.com. So Misha Vayner everywhere. And I do one-on-one coaching. I also even have something called, I have a longer container for the one-on-one 3 or 6 months. And then I also have something that's called a reboot, which is like a 60-minute session if you're dealing with something more acute, and you really need support and guidance out of that. I have a 60-minute reboot where we can get you in a good place. I've had people do it before stressful meetings or if they're going through a divorce or something like that. And then I also do monthly moon circles, women circles that are really such magical experiences, an opportunity to really be guided through deep self-reflection prompts, connection in a really safe space, connect to the cosmic energy with other women. I always have a different healer there that guides us through a different practice. It's an opportunity to really release and ground in and connect, so you can step into the next cycle more fulfilled and happy.
Awesome. Okay. Well, once again, thank you for coming on to It Might Be You and
Thank you
blessing
so
my listeners with your information. Yes, thank you so much.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful for, you having me and for doing this incredible podcast that I know so many people are going to benefit from.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.